Welcome to the next episode of the Limitless Body Mind podcast. Today we'll discuss one of the most debated topics in the fitness industry. Is cardio actually good for fat loss or not? By the end of this episode you will know what's the truth about cardio and its role in fat loss, common myths that might be holding you back, and also what's the right way to maximize cardio for fat loss. Stick around because I will share lots of actionable tips that you can apply to make cardio work for you without wasting your time and energy on the wrong things. If you're new to this channel and this podcast, welcome. Please subscribe. I'll be releasing weekly episodes with a lot of value about weight loss, so you don't want to miss this out if you're serious about your journey. So before we dive into the cardio part, I want to deal with the fat loss equation. I want to make sure you understand how fat loss works so there's no confusion here. And also I have created a previous episode about how fat loss works. It's episode 7 of the podcast and I will put the link in here if you're watching on YouTube so you can click on it. And watch that video first if you really want to lose fat and you don't know how it really works. So for fat loss to work, we need to be on a caloric deficit. That is the bottom line. And the video above can explain a lot of these details that you might have questions about. But it doesn't matter your health conditions, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter pretty much anything. All which matters is that you're on a caloric deficit. You could be having a very bad gut biome, you could be eating bad foods, and some people say not all calories are equal, and that's false, partly true, because all that means is that some calories will damage the way your body works, the way the body absorbs the calories, and the way the body functions. But in reality, again, it's going to come down to the bottom line, which is you consuming less calories than what you're burning. If your body is able to digest, metabolize the calories that you're consuming, and you don't burn them through physical activities or just resting even, then you're probably going to store these calories in the form of fat. Sometimes in protein if you're training, but mostly it goes to fat. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to work on kind of opposite to that. We want to make sure that we consume less calories than what we're burning. If we do that, then fat loss works. So let's handle a few myths here before your brain starts shifting in these directions. The myth number 1 that I'll talk about is that you need to do hours of cardio to lose fat. So the problem with a lot of cardio with fat loss is that you can, first of all, lose some of your muscle if you don't train resistance training. So fat loss is just a form of activity, and if you do it too much, your body is going to start eating of itself, and you have to also implement other forms of training to make sure you preserve your muscle during the fat loss stage. The other problem with a lot of cardio is that your body gets conditioned to that form of activity and becomes very efficient. And that means it's going to burn less calories for the activity that you're doing over a period of some time. For example, your 5K run that you're doing every day, at the beginning you might be burning X amount of calories, let's say 500 calories. But at the end of a month, if you continue doing these 5Ks, you might burn much less calories, like half that. That's a hypothetical number, but it's a real fact. And that means you're going to have to run even more and more. And this is a very time-consuming activity, so most of you don't have enough time to stay on a treadmill and just work so much cardio. Like, cardio takes a lot of time, and that's a big problem. So doing hours of cardio is not really efficient, and it works against you because the more you do it, then the less it works, and you have to do even more. And on top of that, you might have to even reduce the food intake more, which creates all sorts of other problems. And finally, also, the cardio actually can break down the muscles. It can injure you. It can cause damage to the tissues that they need to recover after that. So any sort of like prolonged activity is in general not that great of an idea, and it's not a good sustainable strategy for fat loss. So definitely hours of cardio is not a good strategy for fat loss. Myth number 2 that we need to discuss is that fasted cardio burns more fat than fed cardio when you have eaten. And it doesn't make any sense at all. When we're fasted, there is a bigger chance that we tap into the fat storage to produce energy. But regardless where the storage is of our energy, we're gonna use some energy that's already inside the body. If you look at the body as that big bucket that we put all the energy, all the food, and we have all the muscles and all the fat tissues, it's all in one place. It's all in the body. It's already consumed. It's already in us. So it doesn't really make any difference if we are going to consume this energy directly from the food that we already have, or are we going to consume it directly from the fat tissues? In the short period in a workout, which is like half an hour up to an hour, or maybe even longer, you're not going to make any significant difference to your results, regardless where you extract the fat from to burn it. That can matter only maybe if you're like below 10%, you want to get extra lean, and you really battle against these final margins of fat that you want to lose. If you just need to lose weight, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you do your cardio and that you feel comfortable and you're not really starving, you're not down on energy. In fact, if you consume something before that, that can give you some extra energy so you can last for longer and do more efficient cardio session. Myth number 3 is that cardio is more important than strength training for fat loss. Well, it's not the case, and I kind of referred to that in the myth number 1. Cardio is addition to all your activities, and I will explain how it helps and how we can use it and how much we should do it and what the types of cardio are that we can tap into. But it's in no way more important than strength training, because strength training, it works in the opposite way of cardio. When you do strength training or resistance training, however you call it, you're using your muscles, which are the biggest organs of the body that burn calories, and you also preserve them in this period. By your strength training, you're maintaining your metabolism or daily metabolic rate at a high level all the time, regardless of how much on a deficit you are. Your metabolic rate will probably slow down a little when you stay on a caloric deficit for a long time, but it's not going to be nearly as much as if you don't do strength training at all or you just do cardio. If you just do cardio, your metabolic rate will absolutely crash down, and you'll find yourself in a lot of trouble having to eat miserable amount of food, and even then not burning any fat because your body is just so efficient. So strength training is absolutely more important when it comes to fat loss. And the final one is that the more you sweat, the more fat you burn. You might be thinking that when you sweat, you remove fat and your fat is melting down. Your sweat is nothing but water and toxins and salts. That's all. Your sweat is just water. It's not fat. How much you sweat doesn't relate in any way to how much fat you have burned. In fact, if you train in super cold environment, even in cold water where you don't sweat at all, you burn a hell of a lot more calories and more fat than what you would do in a hot place when you're struggling to move and your body is just holding on all that heat. Okay, now let's dive into what's the right way to do cardio for fat loss. And first we need to understand that there's a few different types of cardio. We do have low intensity, steady pace cardio. We also have a moderate intensity, steady pace cardio. Or we have interval training. It could be low intensity interval training or high intensity interval training, which all these types of activities, they kind of count for cardio. They can, for example, the high intensity interval training or the low intensity interval training, that can be mixed up with other exercises, but that doesn't mean we're not training the cardiovascular system. So how to choose the right cardio for you? Well, let's start with the low intensity steady pace cardio. This is a type of cardio that is extremely beneficial for anyone training, regardless you're trying to lose fat or build muscle. This is a cardio that's going to improve the function of your cells. It's going to probably produce more mitochondria in the muscles, which makes them more durable, more able to produce energy. It's a type of cardio that's going to repair your muscle tissues, type of cardio that's very good for your cognitive function, type of cardio that improves your cardio fitness, the work of your heart and the way you process all that blood and oxygen. So this low intensity steady pace cardio is super valuable, and the right amount for you will depend on your goals and the type of training that you have. And you might be having, let's say, the goal of just losing fat, and you are a little bit overweight and you're a busy person. Your primarily focus will usually be the strength training and the resistance training. And to make sure you don't overdo the cardio too much, but you still have it, I would recommend you have 1 to 2 sessions of low intensity, steady pace cardio per week. That can be like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, maybe 40, up to an hour maximum. And you don't just start by the number, but start by how much you feel comfortable with and start pushing that limit. So add 1 cardio, low intensity steady pace cardio into your workout routine. for maximum results. This will help your body function better, improve your cardiovascular system, improve your recovery from other training, from resistance training. It's going to help you maintain higher fitness level, so when you go to the gym or you function throughout the day, you are more able to function, which will lead to more calories burned. Your workouts will become longer, your performance will increase in all areas. All that together is going to lead to you burning more calories over the 24-hour cycle. And that's where really cardio fits very well. But it's not the case of that you do the cardio and now this is the fat burning session of your routine. You know, most of you think of it as the magic tool for fat loss, but it's really not. So here is why the confusion comes. It comes because when you're on a low intensity, steady pace movement, it could be even rest and walking, we primarily use fatty cells for energy. And I will put a nice graphic here on the screen for those watching on YouTube. If you're listening, just listen carefully, so I'll try to explain it. When we rest or we do low intensity, steady pace cardio, up to about 90%, anywhere from 80 to 90% of the calories that we use to produce ATP come from fatty acids. And that's where the myth comes from, that people believe when we do cardio, we're going to be melting down fat. Yes, that's correct in a way. We do use a lot of fat to burn and move through this period, but this is just the cardio. We also use that fat in the rest of the day when we're resting. So it's much more efficient when we have a very fast metabolic rate that is burning a lot of calories when we're resting and doing our normal activities, because then it's going to tap into the fat. Ultimately, over the period of a week or a month, we're going to burn a huge amount of fat because our metabolic rate is high. But we're not going to burn nearly as close amount of fat during our cardio sessions. The amount of fat that we burn during any session is minuscule. It could be 100 calories, 150 calories, 200 calories, depending how far you go. But it's nothing. For you to lose 1 kilogram of fat, you need to burn about 7,700 calories in excess of your consumption. And that's a lot. So we need to look at it in a bigger scale. So when we move to higher pace of training, higher intensity, we burn more of the glucose. And the more heavy the intensity becomes, the more we use only glucose to produce ATP, because it's very easy to turn the glucose into ATP. And the fat is very potent in ATP, but it's very hard to convert. And that's why it's simply we have this system. So I hope that paint the picture why it's important to do low intensity steady pace cardio and how much to do it. If you want to push it a little bit more and become more athletic, become more fit, cardio fit and overall fit, fitness fit and brain fit, do your cardio like twice a week, right? This low intensity steady pace cardio, up to twice a week, but you don't need more. When you do more, that can affect your performance. And that's where understanding your goals really comes into play, because for example, if you actually plan to become very strong, doing too much cardio can affect your performance. Or on the other hand, you might actually be training for a marathon. So if you know that you're somebody who wants to lose weight, but you also want to run a marathon, then adding more cardio would make sense because you actually want to become more efficient, right? So keep these things in mind and don't overdo your cardio, just do as much as needed. So what about the high intensity cardio, the cardio that is going to increase your heart rate to a lot, up to close to maximum? That cardio is very efficient to strengthen your heart and your cardiovascular system and conditions your body. It also conditions your nervous systems and your energy systems to produce energy in these more extreme environments. So this kind of cardio will make you fitter and stronger additionally, and it's good to be done often. The good thing about that is we can't last for too long when we're in high intensity, so we don't have to waste a lot of time. And you don't need to implement any separate workouts to your regime to ensure that you fit your high intensity interval training type of cardio. You can simply shorten the rest period between your exercises. You can simply do an intense warm-up session. That's something I really love because it primes up the energy systems, the nervous system, and it gets you ready for heavy training. So that could be like elliptical training, where you're pushing yourself a little bit close to the limit before every workout for about 10 minutes. It could be skipping. Rope skipping is one of my favorite ones. It could be jogging. Or you could just have a circuit training where you rotate exercises, pushing, pulling, for example, one exercise push-ups, one exercise lat pull-downs, other exercise overhead press, and so on, and you keep the rest periods about 30 seconds. You don't have to just fit into any specific modality like Tabata, like HIIT training. You don't have to name it in any particular way. All you have to do is just make a workout intense so your heart rate goes high. And when you do that frequently throughout your workouts, in every warm-up, regardless how many times you're training, you could be training 3 times a week or 5 times a week, your strength training, it's going to work. So just for the high intensity, make sure it fits your training schedule, it's blended in there, and you don't have to do separate sessions, and that will be plenty enough. There's nothing magical about it again, it's just going to help you perform better so you can burn more fat and become fitter in a shorter period of time. So one last thing that we maybe need to touch on is what time you should be doing your cardio and what kind of cardio is best for you. And the answer is the same for both questions. What fits best your lifestyle? When it comes to fat loss and all this fitness game, or this becoming that fit person, it's about sustainability. We've said it millions of times, like consistency is what matters. If you're not able to stick to it, it wouldn't matter. The benefits from training consistently, your cardio and your strength training over a long period of time, will far over exceed the benefits you will get from picking the right training plan and doing the right cardio in comparison to doing the wrong cardio. The benefits really come from the consistency. If you're doing a bad training plan, if you're training not so efficiently with your cardio, or you're very efficient, that wouldn't make much of a difference. So don't focus on that. Focus only on what fits your lifestyle. If you like swimming, go swimming. If you want to change it tomorrow to cycling, change it tomorrow to cycling. But do your training. Learn to be consistent. That's what matters the most. So what type of cardio we want to do, up to you. For most people, I will give you my advice. For most people who can't walk much, who really struggle with fitness, walking on incline treadmill, that's brilliant. Stairmaster can be great. It can hurt your knees, so you have to know yourself. Swimming is awesome. You can put some weights into your rucksack and walk with them outside to make sure you increase your heart rate a little bit, but not more than 60 to 70% of your heart rate max. That will keep you in zone 2 cardio, where you're burning mostly fat, and it's a very good pace where you burn sufficient amount of calories for that period of time when you're walking. When you walk slower, you don't burn that many calories. So you want to increase the heart rate a little bit. That's why we'll call it a cardio. It's a cardio session, but it doesn't matter what it will be. And the same, it doesn't matter when it will be. Don't do it, of course, late in the evening when it's going to affect your sleep, but in any other time of the day. If it fits you, then it's perfect. That's your time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being my guest, and please subscribe, support this channel. It's a very new channel, a new podcast, but I will be here for a very long time because I'm fully committed to helping. Also, if you are not tracking your progress right now, make sure you track it. I have created an episode. Episode 5 is how to track your weight loss progress. It's a massive episode because it's going to give you ideas and ways which I use in my coaching practice to track progress with my clients, and they're very, very time efficient and overall efficient. And the things that you shouldn't be doing. So make sure you track your progress, because you might end up spinning in circles for a long time, not knowing what's working, what's not working, not getting anywhere, and eventually drop off your journey. So that's a very, very important thing to do. Just click on that video here, watch it, enjoy. Thanks for being my guest, and see you in the next episode.